nocturnal. Nightlife just got better. Forget about everything for a moment. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party.
Hello guys, you are welcome to Nocturnal, the variety show that takes you back to the old school and helps you reminisce in tempo. So today we are out of the studio to do something different. We're actually going to be up close and personal with one of our guests. And we'll be spending the whole day with him. My name is Chris Carter, but who is this guest? Well, let me give you some clues. He is a whiz kid. Not Wizkid the musician, but a computer Wizkid. And his name is David Bolton. So today, we're actually going to be spending the day with him.
Nocturnal. Nightlife just got better. Forget about everything for a moment. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party.
Today, like I said, we're actually hanging with Ghana's finest computer Wizkid, David Kwamina Bolton.
Hey Chris.
You're welcome to the show once again.
You're welcome here.
All right, so let's just go straight into business. So tell me about early childhood, like when it comes to education and stuff.
Okay, well, I was born in London. My mother left Ghana in the 60s. And I think she met my mum, she was very young, maybe about 19, 20 when she met him. And she was a nurse.
She met your dad?
She met my dad.
Yeah.
Did I say my mum?
Yes.
She met my dad, my dad was a tailor at the time. He's done so many things. I mean, my dad's been a jack of all trades. But my mum was a nurse in a psychiatric hospital, and my dad was a tailor in that same hospital. So he used to make all the clothes for the psychiatric patients. My mum used to look after them.
What a love story.
Yeah. So they met in the hospital, got married a few years later, and then I was the first result of that. Yeah.
All right, so which schools did you attend here in Ghana?
I didn't attend any schools in Ghana. I grew up in England. I came to Ghana, in fact I moved to Ghana when I was 17, but I went to primary school and secondary school in the UK. So I went to, my primary school was called Barrow Hedges. Barrow Hedges, and I was actually the only black kid in that whole school, because I grew up in the suburbs. This was in the mid to late 70s, and I grew up in the suburbs. And those times there were no blacks in the suburbs. All the blacks were in Brixton, Peckham, those areas in the centre of London. So the only time I got to interact with any black kids was when my mum took me to go and see my cousins and so on in the centre of London, yeah.
Wow, yeah. Wow. Okay, so as a child, what did you like to do?
I loved tinkering with things. What happened a lot is that my parents would get me a present, maybe a Christmas or a birthday present. Maybe it was a remote control car or something, or a clock or whatever, or Lego, and I would end up just taking it apart. After playing with it for a couple of hours, I just start dismantling it and finding out how does it work. That I wanted to know how everything worked, and then after dismantling it, try and put it back together and make sure that it still worked. Sort of thing. So I always had a passion for understanding, the basics, the basic makeup of everything.
Yes.
What makes things tick.
Wow. So that's how come you actually founded a company at the age of 14. 14.
Yeah.
Like 14 these days, kids are playing football.
Even my kids, I don't know what my kids are older than that.
So that's why I was asking you, what actually did you like doing as a kid? But at 14, what actually gave you the zeal or that push to open your own company?
Okay, well, let me take it back a little bit. When I was 9, my dad, my parents were not rich. They were very modest. My dad was basically, as I said, he was a tailor at that time. He was also a builder, an electrician, a plumber, and all of that. And when my mother had my sister, which was when I was 5 years old, she had a very difficult pregnancy, so she had to stop work from that point. So my dad was the only breadwinner of the house, and my mum was basically a housewife from that point on. So they managed to get me a second-hand computer when I was 9 years old for Christmas. And it was back then. This was when I was 9. So this was basically 1982, And there was a company called Sinclair, and they had these tiny computers called, it was called the ZX81. And it had 4 kilobytes of memory. That's 4K,
Yes.
not 4 megabytes, not 4 gigabytes.
Not 4 MB.
4K,
yeah.
right? So basically, to put it in perspective, 2K is basically one typed sheet of A4.
Okay.
That's basically
Yeah.
2K, right? So 4K is basically two sheets.
Yeah.
So, but even with that, you could still do a lot. So I started programming it by buying these magazines that would come out every month, and then they had these program listings of games or conundrums, all sorts of things.
Wow.
So I'd type it all out, and then it would, every time there would be some syntax errors, some mistakes. So you actually have to go through and find out why is it not working.
So basically it's like coding.
It was coding.
Yeah, so you
It's
started coding at 9.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, started coding at 9. And so then you have to basically find out why it's not working and fix it. So I started doing that, and then my dad, in fact, my dad was very passionate about anything that I liked, and he saw that I had a passion for. He would push and make sure that he did whatever he could to help me along. So within about, I think, 3-4 months, I had exhausted the power of that computer, and then he managed to get me another one.
Wow.
And then I just kept on going and going and going until I was about 12 years old. And my dad had some clients that he used to do work for. So if he was doing maybe some plumbing at somebody's house and all of that, and one of the clients was a business owner. And those times, you've heard of spreadsheets like
Yes, yeah.
Excel. Those
Yeah.
days it was something called Lotus 123.
Lotus.
So he wanted someone to basically make spreadsheets for him for cash flow forecasts, budgets, that sort of thing. I had no idea what it was at the time. But my dad said, oh, my son can do that. So he gave me the work, and I started actually doing it.
Wow.
It was very challenging, and I didn't understand what I was doing at first. But then, bit by bit, I got on top of it.
You got there.
Yeah, and he used to pay me, I think, was it 50 pence for each spreadsheet I did. And I think my first paycheck was like £5.
That's nice.
You see the thing?
That's
and
nice.
when I was
That's
12 years
nice.
old, that was a lot of money for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So it grew from there, and then when I was 14, I actually started doing more and more work, and then I registered a company, and my first job was to design a stock management system for a toy manufacturer. They were called Carousel, and they used to sell a lot of toys during Christmas.
And they trusted you at 14.
They didn't. It
Okay.
was a case of being in the right place at the right time.
Okay.
They had spent, I think, £50,000 on some software, and professional company and everything, and they couldn't deliver. So a local newspaper had done an article about me, and they were so desperate that they called me and said, look, you have 6 weeks to do this because our Christmas period is coming up. Can you do it? I said, yeah, I can do it. I had no idea what I was doing. But I took it on and I did it. Within, I think, 3-4 weeks, I had the system operational. They started using it, and it actually saved their company for
Wow,
that year.
wow.
And this was a £1 million company at the time. So, they were so grateful. I had my first paycheck was £5,000. Can you imagine?
At that
I was
age,
14
at
years
14.
old, £5,000. That was, even today, that's a lot of money. I remember the first thing I did was I bought my dad a car. I bought my mum a washing machine, microwave, and all of that. And then, because my dad was driving me up and down. So
Yeah.
at that time, he didn't have a car. So I bought him the car, and then it made it easier for him to take me to the clients.
That's so nice.
Yeah, and obviously things just snowballed from there.
Yeah, so when at 16, you actually developed a software for the British Health Service.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
they did contact you too, or you actually went to them and like, look, I can do this for you.
What actually happened is our family doctor, he was called Dr. Smith, bless his memory. He was so passionate about what I was doing. He always used to encourage me, and my dad was doing a lot of work for him. He built his house and all sorts of things like that. So I was always with him. And then he said, hey, we have this problem. The government is changing our contract with all the doctors in the UK. And we need a computer system that's going to be able to manage our patient lists. We need to keep drug records. We need to, medical history of our patients and all of that sort of thing. So why don't you develop some software that can do that? So I sat down with him, understood what was required. And then he actually took me for a meeting at the Royal College of General Practitioners. And they basically took me through, and then I developed the software, and they reviewed it, and they accepted it and said that, look, this is going to be our standard software for all doctors in the UK. And it became so successful, in a short space of time, that there was one other company, a drug company, called Ciba-Geigy. It was a huge multinational drug company, and they had a similar software system, which they were selling for, I think, £250,000 for one installation. Mine was going for like, I think, £10,000 or £15,000 at the time.
So at that point, did you really think, okay, I need to change?
No, no. What happened is they called me. They actually sent a limousine to pick me and my dad up, and drove us into some countryside mansion, showed us the software that they have, showed us the systems and everything. I showed them what I had, and then they said, look, we want to buy what you have. I said, okay, how much? We'll pay you £2 million.
Oh, child, did you hear that? £2 million.
That time I was 16.
At the age of 16, you were offered £2 million. So did you sell it?
No.
Okay.
Because they said that, look, your software represents competition to us, and the price you're selling it at is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
So they actually wanted to buy it.
So buy it off the market, that's it?
Yeah, just shelve it and kill the product.
Oh, okay.
So at that time, money didn't have that I didn't value money because I wasn't doing what I was doing for the money.
You're doing it because you actually love what you're doing.
Yeah, I loved what I was doing at the time. So we rejected it, basically. My dad was in full agreement and all of that. And, things were going so well at the time that I thought, £2 million,
like I can actually make that.
I can make that money, you see the thing. So why, take this and then kill the product and then have that regret that you sold out, the product for some money. So it was just after that I did an interview with a television station, a morning show. And I think that was the first time I mentioned that I was half Ghanaian on that show. And then, I spoke about my background, my mother being Ghanaian, my dad Scottish, and so on. And the next day, I had a call from the Ghana High Commission in London that Chairman Rollins saw this thing, and they invited me to the High Commission, and they said that Chairman Rollins wants you to come to Ghana and basically see what you can do for your nation.
So that's nice. So coming to Ghana, that's when you actually became a chief, that you were installed a chief.
Yeah, I was 17.
What's your title? At 17, what's your title?
I'm Nana Obatan.
Nana Obatan.
Yeah, the actual stool name is Akweku Chimanu the Sixth.
Akweku Chimanu the Sixth. Okay, so I'm supposed to be like, oh, Nana. Oh.
No. So it's actually in a town called Ekumfi Otuam, which happens to be the town that our former president, Atta Mills, is from. So he actually came, just before he died, he came there twice to pay homage to us. And he actually built a school there, secondary school, and did some projects for us.
Do you visit the town like often since you're
especially for festivals and for meetings and so on, especially funerals and all of that. And then I've tried to develop some projects there and all of that. It's not easy, but we're still
So coming back to Ghana, I know you actually worked for a bit for the government. How was it working for the government, especially those ministries that needed the ICT specialties?
Right. It was a challenge because growing up in England, everything works according to the system.
But this is Africa.
Yeah. So and I remember my mom saying, "Don't go to Ghana. They'll kill your dream. They'll kill your dream." And my dad was like, "No, let's go," because he loved Ghana. So it was a challenge dealing with the politics, you see the thing, because unfortunately in Ghana we don't look at the problem and the solution. There are too many things along the way. Corruption is a big problem, and all of that. So at 17, 18, it was very difficult for me to deal with that.
And being young at that too, right?
Yeah. So I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know how to give bribes and all of that, because it's not part of what it's not part of me. It's not my makeup.
Yeah.
And especially when I was brought to Ghana by J.J. Rawlings, who is known to be principled, and you know,
So you also were principled.
exactly.
Especially
exactly.
for someone that had to, like, you know, decline £2 million. That is a lot of principle.
Too much principle, yeah.
And integrity, I
Yeah,
see that.
well, sometimes I think back and, you know, like, should I have taken it? Because it's funny, because just after I declined the money is when I got invited to come to Ghana. You see the thing. And when I came to Ghana, I was forced to close my company in the UK because I wanted to focus on you know, building something in Ghana. You know, because I felt that when I was here, I felt I was home.
Yes.
You know, I being out there, as I told you, I was the only black kid in my school. Both in primary and secondary school, I was the only black kid. Until I think I was like 15 or 16, until another black kid joined my school. And that's a school of about 800 people.
Wow,
You know?
wow.
So I never felt like I really fit in. You know, that I was always somehow on the fringe. And I think that's is part of the reason why I managed to achieve so much. Because I had to rely on myself. I couldn't rely on, you know, people around me. You know?
All right. So you have a son.
Two boys, yeah.
Yeah. So where are they?
One is in boarding school, one is in church right now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do they feel when they actually go through your profile?
For them, it's nothing. They don't see it as anything. You know, I guess because they've grown up around it. So for them, it's nothing, nothing extraordinary, nothing special. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So tell us about your company, Soft Tribe.
Okay. Well, Soft Tribe, we've been around since 1991, and we started out by developing point of sale systems. At that time we were called
POS,
Soft. Yeah, we were called Soft back then. So we did POS systems. We did systems for Melcom, which is one of the retail companies in Ghana. So we did their systems. Then we moved into payroll systems, accounting systems, you know, and then we've grown to become the leading payroll company in the country. You know, where we did payroll for large multinationals like Unilever, Guinness, Nestle, GTP, you know, you name it, the mines and everything.
Wow.
And then we also did government payroll. You know, so we're processing payroll of up to 500,000 people every month. You know, so it's been a journey. It's been a
So
journey.
being a computer whiz kid, one will actually expect you to be the CEO of Soft Tribe. But you are not. You're actually the technical director.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to be a technical director and not the CEO?
No, you see, we're a partnership. There are 3 of us in the company. That's now, and you know, you have to look at where your strengths are. There's no point saying you want to be the CEO when you don't have maybe the management skills to run a company. You know, to be a CEO, ideally, you know, you should have some management training. You should understand accounting and all of that, and be able to deal with the general operations of the company. You know, I grew up, I was a programmer, and I happened to get into business as a programmer. So my background is technical, and it's still technical. So it's about creating things. It's about managing, you know, those projects.
Okay.
So there's no point in just calling yourself a CEO for the sake of being a CEO when you can't perform the functions of a CEO.
Okay. All right. So Achimota School, is that where your kid is?
Yeah. My eldest son is in Achimota. Yeah.
Well, I had to bring that up because, you know, this show is all about, you know, taking you back to the old school. And Achimota is one of the old school schools here that has like a great name.
Sure.
So like, why did you choose Achimota School for him to be in?
I didn't. You see, one thing, I grew up in a very free environment with my parents.
So he chose it?
He chose it, yeah. So basically, I try to back whatever, all I do is guide him. But he makes the decisions. The same thing with the younger one. He's in Presec. You know, I was like,
those
why
are nice schools.
Yeah, I said, why don't you also go to Achimota? He said, no, he wants to do robotics, and they don't do robotics in Achimota.
That one is taking your footstep, robotics.
I hope so. I hope he exceeds them. He actually says he wants to be an astronaut. So.
Wow, an astronaut. That's nice.
Yeah,
like, are there African astronauts?
Well, there are actually Ghanaians that work for NASA. And they're doing very well in NASA.
I think I read something like that.
So who am I to try and say no? Look, how many astronauts come from Africa? Who knows? He can be the first Ghanaian astronaut. It is very possible.
Okay, so now it's time for us to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be seeing other things that he actually does. Don't go nowhere.
Nocturnal, nightlife just got better. Forget about everything for a moment. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party, yeah.
Welcome to Nocturnal, the variety television show that reminisces in tempo. We are here in front of the table tennis table to rile up the rivalries between the schools. The variety show that reminisces in tempo. So on my left, we have David Bolton, who's going to represent the UK. And on my right, he's going to represent Ghana.
Yes.
So this is a Ghana-UK table tennis competition. Let the balls roll.
Thank you.
Nocturnal, nightlife just got better. Forget about everything for a moment. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party, yeah.
Say say who I phone me ya. Maybe say me ti was ya. Capra oro, my woboni ene. Saints will say me wait for what. Sorry oro, ana me to wakuma. Baby my style pisa. Cro do mami away. Yeah, bring your bottom my piara nata toto. My woboni ene. Say me pray for sorry odo say who wa from ya maybe say me ti was ya afrodo baby my style bisa ana me to walk kuma crocrodo mami oh hey yeah bring your bottom my piara nada todo. One is 3 to you. Every girl you see, you look. Call although body no dictates your groove, but you want to stay in truth. She showed oh mommy oh hey. Yeah, prepare but you my appearance not take lodo. Whether not for Makuma, looking more like April Fool. Squeeze odo 7 minus 6 yeah 1 lady. You're my only one. Yes, Oro.
time we saw you as a computer whiz kid,
Yeah,
but today we are seeing him as something else. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, so here, a studio.
Yeah.
DKB Studio. All right,
DKB
so tell me about
Studios.
DKB Studios.
Okay, well, DKB Studios, we've been around since the 90s, actually. It's quite an old studio. And we've been producing a number of Ghanaian artists, such as Obrafo, Abruna Nana, VIP, XDO, KK Fosu, a lot of the high life and hip life artists of the past. And we had a number of hits way back then. And we've been quiet for a little bit because I was focusing on the IT career. But music has always been my passion. Ever since I was as a teenager. I was in the orchestra when I was in primary and secondary school. I used to play violin, and I've always loved music, loved singing. I was in the choir and so on. So I set up a studio when I was about 15 years old, alongside the computer stuff. And then it's always been there, but not everybody knows about it. But it's something that I think as I've become more settled in the IT side, I'm spending more and more time in the studio.
Music.
Exactly, yeah, doing what I love. Yeah.
All right, so between music and the IT or ICT, what's your favorite right now?
Music is my passion. It's always been my passion. The reality is it's difficult making a living, as a musician and in the music industry, especially in Ghana. So you find that most musicians have to have a 9-to-5 job alongside to make ends meet, you sort of thing. So it's something that you do as a passion, and you hope eventually that you can make it into a career.
All right. So what would you say is your forte? Being a producer, or being a songwriter, or being a singer? Because you're like three of them.
Jack of all trades.
Like your daddy?
Exactly, just like my dad. The thing is, I started out by writing songs. I love singing. And then I also love the technical aspect of soundcraft, looking at how sounds interact with each other, looking at EQ, reverbs, and then mixing the songs and producing the songs. So I love the whole process. I love the whole process from beginning to end, yeah.
All right. Okay, so your equipment. When I walked into the studio, I've been to a studio before.
Right.
But when I walked into the studio, I was like, no, this is not the kind of studio I've been to. These are different.
It looks different, eh?
Is this everything everything they have right now? Maybe I went to the studios quite in the 90s, but now I'm like...
Look, times have changed. Times have changed. I mean, when our original studio, what we have here was literally wall to wall with racks and a huge mixing desk.
Usually
that's
what it used to be.
That's what people think about when you talk about studios, but everything has changed. It's just like, look at a smartphone. What can't you do on a smartphone now? Just think 25 years ago, if you try to explain to somebody that there'll be this device where you can look up anything and get information about anything in the world. You can watch videos, you can listen to your music. They'll call you crazy.
I know, right?
You see the thing? And just 25 years down the line, it's become ubiquitous. Nobody can live without a smartphone now. Okay. And the same thing has happened with the studio. I mean, look, this is essentially the mixing desk now. So I mean,
this is the mixing desk?
Yeah, it's touchscreen. So if I touch this, I can get to my mixer.
This is what I usually see.
Yeah. So I've got all my faders here, so I can control everything directly from here and all that. It's all touchscreen now.
All right.
Whereas in the past, you would have a huge board,
and then you
physically have to move things up and down. So everything is now digital and virtual. And it's made life much easier for people to get into the music industry, because now if you're a budding producer or a musician, all you need is a small laptop, little keyboard, and you can start making your own music.
Some even use an iPad, right?
Exactly, yeah. So things have changed so much. So much.
So looking at your equipment, how much would you say you spent on your equipment?
What we have here, probably about $30,000, roughly about that.
That's a lot of money.
Roughly that. But I mean, look, there's always stuff you can buy. But you can start a reasonable studio for about, let's say, $3,000 to $4,000, and you can still produce good sound. Okay,
so let's go back to the people that have been in this studio, the people that you've made music for.
Right.
You said Obrafo, VIP, those are a lot of big names. So how do you relate with them right now?
Oh, the great thing is we still have an excellent relationship with them. I mean, just a few days ago, Samini was here. I'm actually doing a new song with Samini. So he came to record his part a few days back. So we'll be releasing that maybe by the end of February. You know, shooting a video for it and everything. So we still have a very good relationship with
each and every one of them.
with all the musicians. Yeah.
All right. So what do you think about the industry?
The industry has changed. It's really changed. I mean, it's gone both ways. I mean, now, at least those days, it was very difficult to make music because you needed quite a lot of money. Right? These days, it's relatively easy because you can make music in your bedroom. Right? That's the good side of it. The bad side of it is that now, because most people don't go to experienced producers and experienced sound engineers and you know, technical people who have a musical background, a training, at least in a musical instrument. They've gone through proper voice coaching and so on. So they're skipping that, and you find that they're losing out on a lot of the technical know-how and the experience that these people can give them. So you're finding that the quality of music has been dropping, you know, in terms of the depth. You know, what's happening now is you have people that will just come up with a couple of lines, and they put a few beats to it. You know, there's a particular program called Fruity Loops. You've heard
I know
about
that.
it? Yeah,
I've tried my hands on it so many
I hate
times.
it. I mean, with Fruity Loops, honestly, you just click, 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 and you've got a hit. Or you've got a beat.
Yeah,
anyway.
and a lot of people used to use them for beats, especially.
Exactly, and now, you know, people think that Fruity Loops is the go-to place to make a beat. But what happens is that everything is sounding the same.
The same old.
You see, now that's the problem now. So there's no diversity and, you know, no dynamism in the music that's coming out of Ghana at the moment. So I think that needs to change. And there are two ways to do that. The listening public has to start demanding for better quality, and the musicians have to start spending more time, you know,
making better
learning,
music,
learning music. Music is there's theory behind music. You see the thing? You know, if you don't understand what your beats are, what your rest is, what your keys are, progressions, and all these things, you know, it's very difficult for you to make music that's going to stand the test of time. And if you listen to the old stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, take a Michael Jackson album, Thriller. Even now, when you listen to
that is a go-to.
Yeah,
anytime, any day.
You know, if you listen to what Quincy Jones has done.
Yes,
Quincy Jones started out from jazz,
exactly,
making movie scores, you know, all sorts of things, from pop. He does everything, and that guy has such a wealth of experience and knowledge, you know, that that people don't tap into these days, and that it's showing in the quality of our music in Ghana.
Well, that's like, that actually made me sad. That actually made me sad because you just made me realize that instead of musicians, we have a lot of entertainers and not musicians.
Yeah.
Because everybody's doing it for the money or just for the entertainment.
Or for the fame.
Or for the fame.
Yeah, for the fame.
All right, so let's talk about music videos. Your past music videos.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I did an album 20 years ago when I was quite young, and you know, I shot 2 videos for that. One was a video called "Good Tonight," which was like a mid-tempo pop song, and then there was a second one. I did a cover of a Michael Jackson track called "She's Out of My Life," which is a very sad ballad.
Okay, hold on right there. All right, guys, check out the videos right now.
So sweet, it was only gold and diamonds at the soles of our feet. Those were the days we could do no wrong, the days we knew in our hearts the two of us belong. Oh, together, just you and me. That was before you and he. So just heart on the floor, cause you don't love me anymore. Yes, it's in your eyes. I'll pick up the pieces in my own sweet time, cause you fell out of love and I ran out of reasons to hold on.
Wow, interesting. Interesting, but how do you manage all that together with the whole ICT thing? Like, when do you even have time to sing, to shoot videos? I mean, to sing, to let's start from the beginning, to write,
Yeah, yeah.
to sing, to put it together, and then to shoot a video. And then ICT. How do you have time?
It's just about devoting your energies, towards what has to be done at that particular time. For me, the ICT is obviously my fundamental, so that always takes priority in anything I'm doing. But then I try to set aside time for writing, set aside time for the studio, so that if I know that I need to spend 3-4 hours in the studio today to work on a song, to maybe lay some vocals or work on a mix or master or something, then I make sure that I do that. So it's more about time management than anything else. Yeah.
Okay, so you've shown us some of your videos, but right now, what are you working on?
Personally, I'm working on a new album.
Okay.
Right, so there'll be about 15 tracks on the album. I've already released 2 singles last year that's going to be on the album. We're about to release another one, which I told you, featuring Samini. It's a nice, very dark reggae track that's coming out. And then basically we're finishing off the album during the course of the year, and we'll release it somewhere around October. Yeah.
So a little birdie actually told me that you actually sang in Akan. How did that happen? Because I know you don't understand Akan. So how did that happen? Especially for someone who doesn't understand Akan.
That's the only problem I have with my mother, right? In that, when because my sister and I were born in the UK, my mum didn't want us to come back to Ghana because she had a bad experience while she was here, and she left in the 60s. That was the time during the coups and all the upheavals and stuff. And then looking at what happened after that, there were more coups, more problems and all that. So she really didn't want us to come to Ghana at all. So she made it a conscious effort not to teach us Fanti. She's a Fanti. You see the thing. So she wanted us to just stay away. But you know how it is. When the more as a parent you try and push your child away from something,
that's always where they want to go.
That's where they want to go. Yeah, yeah. So I found myself here. So it's always been a challenge to learn Akan. I can understand it, but speaking it is a problem. I'm embarrassed when I make a mistake and people laugh and all that.
And you're a chief.
Yeah, I'm a chief too. Yeah. But as a chief, you have a linguist.
Yes,
your chami is there, so that it's not so much as a problem. I told one of our team members, he's also a songwriter. I told him, look, I want to challenge myself. I want to sing an Akan song. And he said, what? Are you mad? I said, no, let me try it at least, because at that time I think Ed Sheeran. He had released a song with Fuse, OG, Whammy, yeah. So I said, write me the song, let's try. So he wrote it, and I thought, how am I going to sing this? So I just kept on practicing and practicing.
How long did it take?
About 3 months. About 3 months, on and off. And when I felt I was ready, I had the whole team in here. We have a very good resident engineer, Ima, who I'd love you to meet. He's very, very good when it comes to recording vocals and programming and putting arrangements together. So he was here, the songwriter was here, and we had a few other people. So as I was singing it and trying to get the pronunciation right, we kept on taking retakes until we got somewhere that we felt, it's not going to be perfect.
It's all right.
You see the thing, it's not going to be perfect, but so long as people can understand what you're saying. Because look, if the real issue is when you listen to, I go back to a Michael Jackson track, half of the stuff he sings, you can't hear what he's saying,
Exactly.
You can't hear what he's saying. So it takes you sometimes 10 years down the line before you say, is that what he actually said?
Yes, let me give you an example. As a kid, beat it, that his song, beat it, beat it. Actually, yeah, spirit.
You see? That's it.
What was I saying there?
Yeah. Even the live bands, when you go to a club or a pub or something and you hear the live band singing English songs, half the stuff, they're not singing it properly, but you still understand what the song is trying to portray. So it's not always about understanding every single word, but understanding the emotion, understanding the delivery, of what the song is trying to portray.
Okay. All right. So for those who don't know, this is actually the man behind our theme song. Yes, what you actually hear before the show starts. Tell me, how did it all come together?
Okay. Well, Ekem is a good friend of mine. I've known him for maybe 20 years now.
That's the executive producer.
Yeah, the executive producer. And he knew about us in our studio, so he asked if we can put together a theme song for Nocturnal. And so he said, okay, what is the vibe, what's the concept and all of that? So he gave us the details, and then we sat together as a team. And then we said, okay, fine, it needs to, we're dealing with old school, right? So we're thinking, there was this show way back called Soul Train in the States.
Yeah.
You remember that one, where they're all dancing
I
in the
didn't watch
tunnel?
it, but...
Okay, well, I was even too young for that one, but you know, Soul Train, so we had that idea of, you know, if you're trying to rekindle people's time at school, you know, secondary school, primary school and all of that, and you know, it needs to be something that is has a throwback to those sorts of tracks, you know, Kool and the Gang, you know, that sort of thing. But it also needs to be something African.
Yeah.
So we came up with the concept, put together the beat. So again, as I say, Emma, our resident engineer, he programmed the beat, put it together. We brought in a guitarist to lay down the francophone
Yes.
element to it, and then Emma also sang the vocals.
Oh.
Yeah, so Ima's a good singer as well. So he's a jack of all trades like me. So he put down the vocals, and then we did a couple of mixes, some back and forth, and then we came up with the final signature tune.
All right. So let's talk about your top 5 songs.
Top 5 songs.
Yes.
Okay.
So what are your top 5 songs?
What comes to mind immediately, going back, right? My mum.
But wait, before then, let's play Nocturnal again.
Okay,
actually.
all right, sure. I actually have it pulled up here. Let me just bring it up.
So I can see that there is a guitar.
Yeah, so you got the guitar down here. This is the snare drum. So what I'll do is I'll just solo. So this is, you hear the drum,
Okay.
the kick.
That's a kick.
Then we bring in the hi-hats, the snare, the shaker. See, then the wood block.
Okay.
It's a clap. So there are various elements.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a conga, right?
That's it, conga, yeah. Then you have the bass.
That's a bass guitar.
Yep.
Okay.
Then you have some more snares, some other guitars. Then you have the live guitar here. Yeah, so that's basically the instrumentals. And then we added, we wanted a party feel. So we added some elements in here. If you can hear that, you've got people like in the background
like a crowd,
singing, crowd
yeah.
in there.
Like the crowd cheering, yeah.
Then you've got another element with the crowd shouting in.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's the elements, and you have the vocals on there. See, on top of that.
Yes,
See?
guys,
So it all comes together like that.
Is the creator of our theme song, and together with his engineer that we'll be seeing later. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk about your top 5 now.
My top 5, okay. When I was a child, my dad and my mum had different, musical interests. And my mum used to love Jim Reeves.
Yeah.
My dad used to love ABBA, country.
Yeah,
But
ABBA.
they both used to love Boney M.
Everybody loves Boney M.
Exactly, Boney M. So I
Because
grew
of
up listening.
Christmas.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I listened to Boney M growing up a lot when I was very young. Yeah, and then my sister, who is also, because we're mixed race, there was a particular song by Boney M, Brown Girl in a Ring.
Is that the one that say, show me your mode?
Yeah, brown girl in the ring, tra la 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 la. There's a brown girl. Yeah, that one. So that's the song that always reminds me of my childhood.
Okay.
So that would be the first one. The second one would be the ABBA side of things. I loved ABBA's melodies. The way they put together melodies and harmonized and everything. And I remember the very first vinyl that I bought. I saved up the money and I was waiting for it to be released. There was an album called Super Trooper.
Super Trooper.
From ABBA. And they released that. I think that must have been the early 80s.
So like in the early 80s, what were you using? Were you using cassettes? Definitely not CDs.
No, oh, that was way before CDs.
So that's like
The vinyl,
Yeah,
vinyl.
the vinyls, right.
Vinyl. I remember I had an old, we used to call it a gramophone. And it was about the size of this desk. And then it had speakers on the end. And it was a cabinet. It was like a wardrobe.
Yeah.
And then you could put the vinyls on top of each
Yes.
other. And then they would basically fall down and then play, and the next one would play. Sometimes it would get stuck and all of that, and skip and all that. But I remember that was the first album I bought. And then it was in the summertime, and I left it on the windowsill, and I went to school, and came back, and the whole album was just melted.
Oh my God.
I went
melted
mad.
off?
It melted and warped.
And
so
how
I couldn't
much
play
did
it
you
again.
buy it?
Oh, back then it was about £10.
That was
Way
a lot of
back,
money
and
back
that was a
then.
lot of money. That was before I was doing my computer stuff and all that. So I'd saved up my pocket money, and wow, I cried. I really cried. So that's number 2.
Yes.
Number 3 would have to be Michael Jackson, Liberia
Liberian
Girl.
Girl.
Yeah, Liberia Girl. That's you know, and I had, most people don't know Liberian Girl is about a Liberian girl, and there's a country called Liberia. It wasn't until I came to Ghana when I was 17
That you actually
that I knew
realized
that
it
there
was
was a
really-
country called Liberia, and that it was about a Liberian girl. Again, Michael Jackson, you don't really listen to what he's saying most of the time. So that's number 3. Number 4 would be Prince. You know, Prince and Michael Jackson always had this rivalry.
Same, yeah.
But Prince was very different. And
Yeah, because I guess he was more of a slick person than Michael. Michael Jackson was the one putting a lot of energy, dancing and all that. But Prince was all a bit slick and a bit sexual. And
Yeah,
all
exactly.
that.
Yeah, Prince was the raucous one. Yeah, he could play any instrument. I mean, he was so talented, so talented. So he had this song called Raspberry Beret.
I don't know that.
It's a really strange song, but it's really nice. Raspberry Beret. So that would be number 4, right?
Yes.
And the last one is moving. It's still quite old, but this would be back in 1991. I love acoustic guitars, right? And there was this group called Extreme, and they were actually a rock band, but they did an acoustic song called More Than Words.
Everybody knows.
You love that song, yeah?
Everybody
More Than Words. So I just love it. It's a song, even now I can play it over and over and over again. You know, I love it. I'd actually love to do a cover of that song.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, David, I've learned so much from, everything you just said now. It was great talking to you about music.
Right.
This is like seeing the other side of you, and it's been great having you on the show. I want to say a very big thank you for hanging out with you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, guys, so it's now time to actually meet the engineer that actually worked on our theme song together with David. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Nocturnal, nightlife just got better. Forget about everything for a moment. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party. Yeah.
All right, guys, so right now we have the engineer who actually worked with David on our theme song, and he's no other person than Kivans. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to ask you some technical questions that,
Sure.
on putting together a song. So how important is rhythm, melody, and harmony in a song?
Okay, actually it depends on the genre of the song you want to produce, or you want to write, or you want to sing, whatever it is, it depends. So for a song like a theme song, being nocturnal, I mean, we thought of, actually I didn't write it alone. I mean, when it comes to DKB, we work as a team, myself, David Kwamina Bolton, and then Rush. Yeah. So we did it together. We wrote the song together. But you look at melody, thinking of nocturnal, taking the people back into time. You factor all that melody, rhythm, arrangement, chordal progressions, harmony, tempo, and all that. That factors to a good song, depending on the genre. Yeah.
All right, so can you just give us some of the explanations that you just said right here?
Okay.
Since you're the technical person, you're like talking to me, but I want to see you doing it there.
Okay, so this is a project window, actually. And this is the whole project where Nocturnal, the theme song. So we have the kick here, being the drum. And then we have the hi-hat. That adds some sort of high-end frequencies to the song. And then we have the snare, which normally plays around the mid-range. And then we have the shaker as well. And then the wood block comes in, which is a percussive instrument, you know. And then we have a clap, which all normally plays around the mid-range of a song. Because you're looking at having a brighter song where you can hear all elements clear, loud enough, you know. And then the conga comes in as well.
Oh, I love the conga.
Really? I see. Okay. And then the organ, you know.
Oh, it's coming together.
Of course. I mean, this is a vintage organ, you know. So it gives it that warmth you're looking for.
And it gives it that African,
You know.
Caribbean feel.
You know. And then we have a steel guitar.
Now this like takes me to Congo.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have an electric guitar, which brings that francophone.
This actually takes me to
soukous.
Congo.
Okay.
Yes, this is
you
the
know,
one that takes me to Congo.
Exactly. Gives you that soukous francophone.
Soukous feeling.
Exactly. You know. Okay. And then we have the lead vocal, which of course is all about nocturnal. So putting them all together, we have the backup, and then yeah, we have a crash, of course. I mean, within every interlude, I'm gonna crash to introduce what is coming next. You know, yeah. Okay. So this is where the fun is, you know, some crowd to add some excitement.
So the crowd, I want to ask about the crowd part. Was it something recorded?
Yeah.
The
We recorded it here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we recorded it here live.
It was not like
No, it's not just a sound effect or something. We recorded it live here, live. All the whistles you're hearing out there. I mean, we did it all live. You know, everything is live. We did everything right here. Okay. So then the verse comes in, being the lead vocal.
And the ad lib.
And then the ad lib, of course.
So basically, the ad libs are always recorded apart.
Apart.
So everything is recorded apart, then put together,
Exactly.
constructed together.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Now I understand.
Exactly. You know. So the ad lib normally comes in after the lead vocals itself, where you have loopholes,
yeah,
you know, to glue the whole thing together and make it gel. Yeah.
All right. So I think I've learned a lot of technical stuff thanks to you.
Sure, anytime.
All right, so before I let you go, Kibans, I just want you to do one thing for me.
Sure.
Just one wish. Look into the camera and then sing one line of our theme song.
Okay. So knock, knock, nocturnal. Nightlife just got better.
All right, thank you so much, and it was
Sure.
nice talking to you.
Nice
so
talking
guys,
to you too.
as you already heard, Nightlife just got better because this is Nocturnal, so don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Nocturnal, nightlife just got better. Forget about everything for a moment. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party, yeah.
All right, guys, I hope you had fun. Donna, did you have fun?
Yes, I did. What about you?
It was great. It was a fun-filled episode, and we want to say a very big thank you to you for actually hanging with us. So remember that you can meet us next week, same time, and we'll be right here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Knock, knock, nocturnal. Nightlife just got better. Forget about everything for a moment. Let's party. Let's party, yeah. Knock, knock, nocturnal.